on, ladies and gentlemen.
There's the goal, the equaliser for Argentina. Michael Casella.
Reverse it. Germany have equalised. Great work coming in from the defending champions, catching the New Zealand defence off guard.
Harmanpreet shoots and Harmanpreet puts them 1 foot into the semi-finals. India have won the Uttar Pradesh Hockey Junior World Cup men Lucknow 2016.
The next edition of the FIH Men's World Cup starts on 24th November in Bhubaneswar, India. You can expect thrilling encounters and amazing display of speed, skills and talent. Don't miss the next Hockey Stars. And guess what? It will be available live on watch.hockey. That's also for free.
Welcome to the first FIH Junior World Cup show. We have a stellar lineup of guests today to talk us through this fantastic showcase of young talent. We are welcoming Marsha Cox, one of the best known faces of South African team sport, and she's also been a support, an inspiration and a mentor to many of the under-21 players who will be competing in both the men's and women's Junior World Cups. So hi Marsha, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, and you, Sarah?
Yep, really good. Adi, we've got Adrian Locke here, head coach to the Spanish women's national side, but who also has some form as coach to the Spanish under-21 side, leading them to victory in the Five Nations Invitational in Valencia in 2015, and then to a 4th place finish in the 2016 Junior World Cup, where they lost to Australia on shootout in the bronze medal match. That was some achievement. And hi, Adrian, welcome.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to see you again.
And we also have PR Srijesh. He's joining us from Bhubaneswar as our man on the street. Sri is the face of India hockey at the Junior World Cup. And in case anyone has avoided all hockey news in the past few months, him and his team won bronze at the Tokyo Olympic Games. And it's fair to say that the athletes have been sporting icons in India ever since. So hi, Sri, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Brilliant to see you. So we're going to come to you first, Sri, because you are there. You're our man on the street in Bhubaneswar. The teams have all arrived. There's a palpable air of excitement. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on in that hockey mad city?
So far I know that Egypt is the last team who arrived in Bhubaneswar for this Junior World Cup. And the first thing is that the stadium is really ready for this Junior World Cup, and the stadium is decorated really well, and the juniors can expect a wonderful dugout and the changing rooms, because that is one of the beautiful and the best stadium ever they can expect in their category. And unfortunately, this time we can't expect any spectators on the podium on the stands because of these COVID protocols. But still, the players can, they can be happy because the parents of the players are allowed to watch the live matches. But there are a little bit of restrictions with that, because the players are not allowed to meet their parents during this tournament. So that is a strict restrictions came from the authority. But I think that is one of the sacrifice which the players has to make during this tournament. And there is a couple of other restrictions is going to happen with these players, are like every second day they need to undergo a COVID test. And the best part which I got to know about that is the lab assistants, the people, those who are testing the COVID RT-PCR, they are staying in their own hotels, because if anybody feel any sickness, they can go and approach them for the test. So that is going to be well taken care of by this with the organizing party. And there is one more thing, is that all the hotels, those who are accommodating the Junior World Cup teams, are stopped their restaurant for the public, so that that is the main concern about the players' safety, so that the restaurants and this public entertainment is stopped and for this Junior World Cup period. Then for the players' safety purpose, there is a police battalion is staying outside their hotel, so they are taking care of the players, and they are not allowing any unknown persons to enter into the hotels, and they are getting more escort from the hotel to the stadium and back to the hotel, and they are really safe from any threat from this any threatened from this outside sources. And the players are really thrilled. I spoke with a couple of players from the Indian team, and I saw a couple of players are training in this main pitch. They are so thrilled because after 1.5 years of sacrifice, they are out of from this their sports, international career. Now they are getting to play the biggest junior event, that's a Junior World Cup, which is going to happens in Bhubaneswar, and they're just thrilled, and they're just counting the hours now just to play their first match tomorrow morning.
Brilliant. Sounds exciting. I mean, obviously it's very important that the players are safe and all those protocols are in place, but it's also an extremely exciting time. Marsha, I know we're talking about the men's event here, but just in South Africa, I mean, obviously they're building up and it's just a couple of weeks now before the start of that tournament. What are the restrictions going to be like in place in South Africa? Do we know yet?
Sarah, we're not 100% sure yet, because as it stands, spectators are allowed to watch sports events. So but we don't know if there will be any updates or changes, or if the organizing committee themselves will implement any further restrictions. But in terms of the country at large, the restrictions have been what's the word I'm looking for? The first word that comes to mind is a Dutch word, which is really bad.
It's a multinational audience.
But yeah, they have reduced the number of restrictions that they've had in the last month. So yeah, spectators were allowed in the last hockey event that took place 3 weeks ago. So we hope for the same for the players, that they can have that. We do know that one of the restrictions is that the players would need to stay in a bubble, very similar to that restriction in India. So even if there are spectators at the event, the players would still be required to stay in a bubble.
Yeah, I mean, but as we saw at Tokyo, I mean, it didn't detract from the quality of the hockey at all. And if anything, it probably focused players' minds. Adi, I'd like you to cast your mind back 5 years, like this time that was pre-COVID and pre-everything else. What was it like in Santiago, and what would the players and coaches be typically doing on the night before the start of the big event like this?
Yeah, I mean, they're exciting times for these young athletes. Some of them maybe have some senior experience, but most of them don't. And I think Junior World Cups is the closest you get to senior international hockey on the scale without actually getting there. So they're exciting times for the players. For most of them, it's the first time they've played against teams from different continents. So that's always something a little bit different. And the coaches at this kind of time are generally trying to get some information especially on their first opponent. As the tournament goes on, then they'll obviously see the different teams playing and see their opponents playing live. But for the first game, sometimes it's difficult to get hold of footage. So typically at this kind of time, each of the teams has got their selection done. They've had their friendly matches, and then they're looking to make deals with other teams and see if they can get some video footage and give them something in exchange. I remember we went to Chile, and I remember we kind of, one of our deals was we played a friendly match, and in exchange for a friendly match, we had to give them, the opposition, a couple of videos of opposition teams and things like that. It was just to give the coaches an idea of what they're going to be against in the first game, and just to settle the nerves as well for the players that are going into a big event. It's probably, for most of them, it'll be the biggest kind of tournament they've played up to this stage in their careers. And just having a little bit of knowledge about the first team they're going to play against will settle the nerves a little bit, and then allow them to concentrate on the job in hand. So exciting times and last minute details.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the age group that has the steepest learning curve, isn't it? Because you go from playing, mainly within your own country or continent, and then suddenly you're up against all sorts of different styles, learning a new culture. Marsha, you were a child prodigy, weren't you? Representing South Africa at sort of just 18. What things will these young players learn as they sort of enter this whole new sort of stage of international competition?
I think it's going to be overwhelming. To be honest, if I reflect back to my own experience, I do think that social media and technology changes it for the generation today. They definitely have a lot more exposure to the opposition and you know, just the personalities that they will also meet on the field. So I think that prepares them a little bit better, but I do think that overall they probably would be overwhelmed, because like Adrian said, you can reflect a little bit on what senior teams, you know, their style of play, but at the same time, you have some of the under 21 teams looking completely different to the senior team, so you're totally thrown off in that regard. I think, yeah, so just to go back, I do think it's going to be an overwhelming experience in many things, in terms of just the on the field experience and as well as off the field experience. But I think that a lot of the young players would want to test themselves to see if at their own age group they're able to stand out as the cream of the crop, and that would be a good sort of gauge if they're ready to take the next steps into their senior teams.
Yeah, and I mean, we've speaking on other shows and everything about how different teams have had different international actions and practices and trainings in the last sort of 18 months or so. Teams, you know, the teams in Europe have been lucky enough to be able to travel a little bit and play each other. But for teams like South Africa, like Canada, like USA, it's been a little bit restricted, and Chile, for example, as well. So will that play on the players' minds, do you think? Or do you think there's a positive to be taken in that actually nobody knows, as Adrian was saying, nobody actually knows us. No one's got any footage of us. Nobody knows what to expect.
I think that's normally the approach that the unknowns take, is that nobody knows what to expect. And because they can't, they'll only have the first game to gauge from. For the second game, they have no idea, is this a typical style of play, or was it just the style of play for the first game, for the opening game? So you know that is the strength of being an unknown, is that you'll keep the opposition guessing for at least the first 3 games of the tournament, because they won't be able to decipher if your style of play is something that is set, or if you're managing to adjust it according to the opposition that you're playing against. So yeah, I think most of the time that is the approach that the teams will take, is that play on the strength of being the unknown.
We've also heard from a lot of the young players in the teams, and I'll just stick with Marsha for a minute on this because I think you've got an opinion on it. Young players sometimes have an expectation and a perspective that perhaps gets honed a little bit as they get older and more experienced. We've heard a lot of nations talk about being on the podium, and if we took all of them at their word, there would be probably 16 teams standing in the gold medal position. Is there something to be learnt here about taking it step by step and looking to the next part of the competition, rather than setting the sights right at the top from the start?
Yeah, I think it would also be interesting to get some feedback from Adrian and Trajetta as well. But I'm a firm believer in process goals. And I don't know whether it's also a generation gap or whether it is, I have no idea why. But I guess, I think that one of the learnings that you take from very successful teams is, not only in hockey, but in other sports, is to first focus on, the one goal at a time. And if you're already putting yourself on the podium, I wonder how much time and energy has been spent on the first game. And if you don't overcome that first hurdle, the podium just seems like a goal that is slipping. Exactly. We learn in international hockey to also play the phases. And just like you play the phases in one game, you got to play the phases in each tournament. And you first got to get through the pool phase. And I would highly recommend that instead of focusing on the podium, that more players actually focus on the first phase of the tournament. And maybe it actually is to first get through the nervous energy of the first game.
Yeah, and I will come to Adi on that point. As a coach, how do you balance the youthful enthusiasm for reaching the podium with the need to take it one step at a time and focus on the next game?
No, I think obviously if everyone goes to the tournament, everyone wants to do well, and there's teams that will have realistic expectations of what to expect. But also in junior levels, especially, you're never really sure what you're going to come up against, because in junior levels the players are coming through and then going to seniors and new players coming through. So it's difficult to have expectations in junior levels because you don't really know the opposition. I agree with Marsha in terms of taking it one step at a time. There's no point in thinking about being on the podium or being in the semi-finals if you're taking energy and focus away from the job at hand. And the job at hand is preparing the tournament, preparing the first game, being in optimal physical condition, being aware mentally of what you're going to come up against, the nerves for the first game of the tournament, how you're going to get through the first 5 minutes of the first game. Anything that takes away from the current process, like Marsha said, of what you're doing, isn't really going to help. But on the other hand, obviously, players will go to the tournament with hopes and with dreams which they want to try and fulfill, and that's what makes sport special, because you know that anything can happen. So I was trying to think of it as that kind of everyone's dream is to win the tournament, but the real objective is to do what's necessary to make your dream a reality, kind of thing. And so you're focusing on what you need to do, and then fate or destiny, whatever, will take its course. But you have a part in that of doing your job. And also, it's a tough tournament. It's a tough format, this tournament, because there's obviously 4 groups of 4 teams. Only the top 2 teams go through to the quarterfinals. And so it's not easy. There's no kind of second chances now with the seniors. There's the kind of the playoffs between second and third places, which give you a bit of a backup, if you like. But in the juniors, if the tournament's still how it was, I haven't looked at the format. It's tough, and then you go into the quarterfinals, and immediately you're playing a first place team from another group. So I mean, there's no backup. There's not a lot of room for getting it wrong. And like March says, everything at the end of the tournament, but in the first 2 games, it can already be decided if you're through to the quarterfinals or you're out. So your tournament could effectively be 2 games. So
it's a very, very steep learning curve.
But it could also be like, you know, the saying, if you want to be the best, you've got to beat everybody. So it could also be just the young players having a lot of faith and confidence in their group, that they think that they will just win everything, and there is no need to tactically think about the group phase, because they will just beat everybody and be on the podium.
There you go. Great coaching point. Shrikesh, we're talking about pressure and expectations and all that sort of thing. I mean, India, there they are. You know, they're host nation, they're defending champions. How much pressure is on those young players' shoulders? Probably added to by the fact you're bronze medalists and your women did so well at Tokyo as well. You know, there's pressure on those Indian players, isn't there?
Continuing with Marsha and Adrian, I think this is their opportunity to showcase themselves and getting an opportunity into the senior team. So playing a junior World Cup, it is like a time bomb where you want to perform really well and win the medal. And I mean, simultaneously, you need to showcase your performance and get a place in the senior squad. So that is going to be a really mix up with all the teams, definitely. I mean, as a defending champion and hosting nation, India does have a lot of pressure on them, but still I feel like, the first relief for the Indian team is like there is no crowded. I mean, there is no spectators, because when the spectators are there, the kids have that kind of enthusiasm, or they do have the tendency to play their own individual games. So now they probably think about, yes, we do need to play our game and to win match by match, as Marsha already mentioned. It's like the tactics, what they are learning for the future. But I think for us, it's more about emotional feeling, because last year we won the Junior World Cup. This time we got a medal in the Olympics games. Now we give this responsibility to the youngsters to win or to continue this winning rhythm with this Junior World Cup. But I believe that they will not take this pressure. It's not a pressure, it's an expectation, because the way they perform from last 2 years, that's give them confidence, that's give the spectators more expectations, like, okay, these guys are capable enough to win the tournament. But I think, somewhere they feel it, and I think that is where the role of the senior players like me come in place, where I can go and meet them and talk to them like, hey guys, this is one match at a time. Just play your game, just enjoy the match, and automatically the result will come up.
Brilliant. There's some great advice from all of you actually there. Let's have a quick look at the pool, and I might even ask you to make 1 or 2 predictions here. So, Marsha, Pool A, we've got Belgium, Chile, Malaysia and South Africa. And the opening match is going to be Belgium versus South Africa. What are you going to be screaming at the TV screen as you're watching that game?
Of course, I'll be cheering for South Africa. But we do know that Belgium have spent a lot of time in their program, and it's not just the program for their current senior team, but also to have the depth. And they've seen, you know, everybody talks about where Belgium hockey was 10 years ago and where they are today with men's hockey. So they do understand the importance of building with their youngsters. But I do know that our South African men are extremely talented and also want to prove that they are ready to take the next step. We've got a lot of young talents coming through, and I think that eagerness to really show up is there. And the one thing that we don't ever speak about it, maybe it's taboo, I have no idea, but for countries like ourselves, playing at these international events are also an opportunity, not only for us to perform as a team, but for us to perform as individuals, as opportunities to show European teams that perhaps we are worth the investment to play club hockey abroad. So I do think that individually there's a lot for the players to play for, but as a team, they've got a coach with experience. He was an assistant in Tokyo, so he, I think, will keep both feet on the ground and play through the phases accordingly. We don't know too much about tactical play from our South African men, but we do know that in terms of the tenacity and the mindset and the fighting spirits, that is definitely going to be there. So I think, you know, opening game, a lot of nervous energy on both ends. I'm hoping for a little bit of an upset in the sense of, actually at under 21 we can't really predict who would win, but if we go on where senior teams lie on ranking lists, then I hope our South African boys cause an upset.
Yeah, your senior men have done it before, so there's a precedent there, isn't there? Brilliant. Pool B, it's Canada, it's France, it's obviously the host nation, India and Poland. We've already had your thoughts, Sri, on the Indian side. I just wondered if you could talk briefly about the Canada versus Poland game, which is the opening match of that pool, because they're both teams that are not, you know, they're not the highest ranking teams for sure, but one of them is going to get momentum because one of them is going to win that match. How important is it for a team in the earliest stages of a tournament like this, which is so tough, to get momentum and to get an early win?
For us, it's really important with the first game because when you feel like, yes, the rest of the teams are really low in the ranking, but you can't take them granted. Taking us experience from 2016 or Rio Olympics, we were like good side, but we drew with the Canada and we got a tougher side like Belgium in the quarterfinals. So when we are facing France in the first games, this is the best thing what we can tell to them is that don't underestimate any team during the the league round matches, because each points are really important for you. And you look at the pool, it's like Canada, it's already there definitely, and Poland. So automatically we do have some sort of upper hands, but that definitely doesn't mean like, okay, you can win all the matches, because all the teams are there in the Junior World Cup. They wanted to give their 100% and they want to find a spot in the quarterfinals. So automatically the result of the real game will start from the quarterfinals, but you want to, or you need to earn each point from the first match itself so that you finish somewhere in a good position in the quarterfinals so that you can expect a weaker team.
Yeah, it's just building that momentum and building that sort of that winning feeling as well. The third pool, AD, Korea, Netherlands, Spain and USA. That's a tough pool, isn't it?
Well, I'd imagine so. Like Marcia said, it's sometimes difficult to make predictions, and according to the quality of players, obviously, for the Spanish team, they've been together for a couple of weeks. I had a training camp with the seniors and played a couple of games, so they haven't been together for a long time. And for most of the teams, they won't know each other very well. Obviously, I'm not sure how much hockey they've been able to play in the US. And I know Korea has had some restrictions as well. So I don't know how much, like you said, with the COVID restrictions, how much hockey each team will have played and how much preparation time they will have played will affect it. But I would expect quite a few of the pools to be quite evenly matched, just because there's not a whole lot of preparation time for juniors, and with the coronavirus, I think it'll make it a more exciting and more open tournament in that way, like you say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the fourth pool where we've got Argentina, Egypt, Germany, and Pakistan. I mean, Marsha, that's a pool that on paper you'd probably think, I don't know, Argentina, Germany, but Pakistan could really pull it out of the bag, and Egypt have got an awful lot going for them. So, what are your thoughts on that pool?
Yeah, I think just to add again to what Adrian said, it's a bit unpredictable. We know that in terms of Egypt as well, they've also had some challenges with not only with COVID restrictions, but also just with they have been able to play, but then I think that they've also got some challenges with some of their players having to attend other events as well. So that player management is also really important if some of the youngsters have had to play with the senior teams. So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. I'm not sure how much time the others have had. So I guess it's pretty much going to be an open pool. And judging from the first, I'm a bit hesitant to say judging from the first game, because there'll be a lot of nervous energy. There'll be potential jet lag. There'll be potential sniffs and slight coughs that might cause a bit of like the group to be a bit unsettled. And then, you build your confidence into your second game. So I think it's more about the second game, the second pool game. So the first game is just get rid of all the nervous energy, and you go in with 1 point and hang on to that 1 point for as long as possible and potentially come off with 3. But yeah, I think it's going to be an open field. And
I was going to say, that is the thing, isn't it? I mean, a team that isn't expected to do well could do very, very well in the opening game because of all of those reasons, and then everyone's playing catch up with them, which actually isn't that easy. So I mean, that's what makes it such an open tournament. Brilliant. We're sort of coming to the end of the show, but I just wonder whether I dare ask you guys to have a little go at predicting who you think might be in the final 4. And we'll take a note of this, and then we'll reconvene at the end and see how close you all were. So Adrian looks like he's thinking, so I'm going to come to him first. Adi, could you come on? Let's see. Who do you think is going to be, or give us a few teams that you think might be pushing and punching their way into the final 4?
Is there a prize?
There's a prize. Go on. I'll persuade the FIH to hand over a prize to you.
I think India. I think being at home, I think that'll be good. I could do this really easy. I could just say South Africa, India, England, and Spain, and everyone will be happy who's in my immediate environment.
Except England aren't there, obviously.
But yeah, that is a big no, I think India. I think Belgium will be up there in the end. I think they've just the investment that, from my understanding, the investment they make in their junior teams and the preparation that they have, the time they have together, I think that'll be really valuable for them. I think there'll definitely be a team there that we don't expect, and I'm going to go for Pakistan as an upset team, and I think Germany, because Germany is always in the semi-finals. They're always there.
They're always there. Thank you. Marsha, your 4.
In the meantime, I apologise to Marsha for not saying South Africa. she'll make up for me.
Adrian, I was thinking, what about Spain? But So
I didn't say Spain, did I? No.
No.
I think I'm going to be in trouble now, aren't I?
I do think India for sure. I think the Netherlands will also be a pleasant surprise, I guess, because it would be pleasant in the sense of seeing their juniors sort of carrying the disappointment of their senior men's last performance. But I do think, my money on Germany as well, with Adrian. And I don't know, I've got a feeling that it's going to come down to like goal difference getting into the quarterfinals. And so I don't think a team, perhaps they do, but South Africa or like, I would also like to say Canada might be like a curveball for some of the teams, but I don't know if I'm that confident to say they'll end up in the top 4, but I do think that they're going to cause some trouble for teams getting through to the next round.
The Canadian people will love you for it, Marsha. Come on, let's get Canada down there.
Okay, we'll put them on.
Right, Shri, who are you going for? Surely you can't say India.
See, for me, the 4 team is, it is like India, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium. That is what
That's your
it
4
calls for me, because it's not like, okay, they are in the phase, they are continuing training, they are getting more matches, they are playing the league. So these are the 4 teams which feel like, okay, they are extremely ready for this event. But I just want to mention 2 more teams, or maybe 3 more teams into this session. It's like one, Pakistan, Malaysia, and France. Because these 2 teams, Pakistan and Malaysia, maybe they can be a black horses. Anytime they can jump in. Maybe because they can take the advantage of this climate in Bhubaneswar, humid, bit hot, but in the evening, bit nicer. And France is always in the junior level. They came up with a lot of good hockey. So the top 4 is my preference, and another 3 is my. They are the black horses where anytime they can come up and perform really well.
I'm not sure I said you could have 7, but okay, we'll go with it as you are the face of Bhubaneswar. Brilliant. Okay, so they're your predictions. We'd love to hear from other people to find out what everybody else thinks. The matches kick off tomorrow, and we've got 2 weeks of really exciting competition. So the first 6 days of competition are going to be broadcast on the Watch Hockey app. Then from the 1st to the 5th of December, the Watch Hockey app will be live streaming to all areas outside India, Maldives, Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. All of those regions are subject to broadcasting rights. You can also follow the Junior World Cup, all the action across the FIH social media channels. And we will be returning with 2 special Men's Junior World Cup shows, one ahead of the semi-finals and one after the finals, when we might be able to get some of these guests back again and see whether their predictions have come true. But thank you very, very much for your time. Shri, Marsha, Adi, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for chatting.